It was a short holiday week, but there was no lack of stories from the animal kingdom.
Lui and Oliver have been busy collecting them all for this week's edition of the Newshounds.
Here's the Newshounds, Lui and Oliver, with their World News Roundup.
This week on the Newshounds, a touching reunion.
A tribute to a queen.
And a rare birth in Australia.
Chester Zoo's primate conservationists have proudly introduced the world to an adorable newborn Bornean orangutan. Born in the early hours of August 31st to parents Sariki and Willie, this rare addition brings home for the critically endangered species, listed as a top conservation priority by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. Sariki was seen cradling her yet unnamed newborn and carrying the baby on her shoulder.
Speaking of threatened species, the Perth Zoo in Australia is celebrating the birth of 13 numbat joeys at its breeding facility. The zoo released footage of the marsupials in their enclosure and say that staff have been closely monitoring the new arrivals. The zoo estimates that fewer than 2,000 numbats remain in the wild, so every individual born makes an important difference to the species. The Perth Zoo is the only zoological institution in the world breeding numbats, which are close relatives to the kangaroo and koala.
Today marks the one-year anniversary of the death of Queen Elizabeth, who was well known for her love of corgis. So naturally, corgis from across the United Kingdom gathered outside Buckingham Palace as owners paid tribute to the late queen. Some 20 royal ranks and corgi lovers walked with their dogs that were dressed up in uniforms and tiaras. Corgis were Queen Elizabeth's constant companions ever since she was a child. She owned nearly 30 throughout her life, and they enjoyed a life of privilege for a royal pet.
And finally, there was a joyful reunion at Rockhampton Zoo, Queensland, when a young chimp was back in the arms of its surrogate mother after spending the night in veterinary care following a snake bite. Heart-melting footage released by the zoo shows two happy, hugging chimpanzees. Little guy Gandali was treated overnight and responded well to the anti-venom treatment before heading back into the waiting arms of his mother, Samantha. Together again.
And that's this week's edition of the Newshounds.
No, Oliver, no crown for you.
You knew what I was going to ask. Give the people what they want, Mark.
Absolutely.